welcome to my channel. My name is Saleema, and I live my life in alignment with the universal elements of air, water, fire, and earth, so I can experience the fullness of who I am every day. So today we're going to have a conversation about the element of fire. And this is just a continuation of my basic introductory series on the elements. You can find out more about what the elements are by getting my book, which is The Elements of Me. And it's available on Amazon. It's always going to be linked in the description box below. And this is going to give you an explanation of not just what the elements are, a fuller explanation of what the elements are, but also my journey and my story about, where I was in my awareness of the elements and how they had always been impacting my life. And then how I developed myself to be in more alignment and awareness and attunement with the elements so that I could, live the way that I want to live and be the designer and the creator of the life that I want. So you can get this on Amazon. You can get it in the links below, or you can go to my link tree. If you are looking at this from Instagram or TikTok, you can go to my Linktree link and you can get it there. And I'm going to be reading from this so that can kind of framework the video for today based on what I talk about in the book. Okay, so today's conversation is going to be about fire and what fire is as far as the elemental energy is concerned. What it looks like when we have high fire energy, what it looks like when we have low fire energy, and just what we can do in order to get into alignment with and build up our fire elements so that we can move and live the way that we want to live and do and experience what we want to experience. Okay, so what is the fire element? The fire element is the spark of life. The fire element is what animates us. It's the energy of creativity, of passion. It's what's got me talking right now. It's what woke you up this morning. It is the energy of movement and of life. So let me go into my book here. I'm going to go into the section on fire. Right here, fire. And I'm going to read this is the first paragraph. Okay. Fire is life. It is the spark that animates earth and all its inhabitants. Our bodies are awakened by the light of fire to move, produce, and sustain. Fire represents passion, creativity, the will, confidence, drive, action, movement, illumination of awareness, and desire. Our imaginations, which is the air element, are fueled by our desire and creativity, which is the fire element. Reproduction is fueled by arousal, which is the spark of life. Nothing can be manifested on this planet without the power of fire in its element or energetic form. The chair you are sitting on was a spark of an idea in somebody's head. A desire to create an apparatus of rest and comfort. The shirt you are wearing only exists because of the creative fire of someone to produce an item of artistic beauty and function. You, me, everybody in humanity is a product of the fiery desire for two bodies to join and create an interpretation of themselves. Energetic fire drives our aspiration. Yet when the fire is low, we cannot achieve or sustain what we want to manifest. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about. It's not just what the fire element is, but how it sets up our life. As a kid, I've always had a high fire energy. So I was very self-motivated and creative. And I remember when I was young, like probably 10 years old or less, I wanted to get a bike. And I asked my dad, to buy me a bike. And he basically told me, if you learn how to ride a bike, then I'll buy you one. So I remember, baby, I wanted this bike. So I went to my friend's house and she already knew how to ride a bike. So I was like, listen, I was over there visiting. I said, listen, teach me how to ride a bike. Because my dad said if I learn how to ride a bike, he'll buy me one. So that afternoon, a couple hours, like maybe like 4 or 5 hours, we were in her apartment complex in the parking lot, and she was teaching me how to ride a bike. So, baby, I was stumbling and bumbling, I remember I fell behind the cars off the bike, just trying to figure out how to balance and learn how to ride this bike. But when I tell you, in that afternoon, that short afternoon, I learned how to ride a bike. So I remember my dad calling her parents and like, I'm getting ready to come pick up Saleema. I was like, okay. I was like, I want to be riding the bike when he comes, So I remember saw him pulling up into the parking lot, and I was like, okay. And I started riding the bike because by then I knew how to balance and I knew how to steer and knew how to ride the bike. Yeah, that's what it was. So initially I was like, I want to ride a bike. So he told me, learn how to ride a bike and I'll buy you one. So I remember she just taught me the basics so that I could kind of ride and steer. He pulled up and I was riding that bike around, and he was just so amazed. He was like, you learned how to ride a bike in an afternoon? I said, yes, because I want the bike. I was motivated. I had high fire energy. I remember something else, and I talk about these in the book, but long story short, this was when I was older, probably in my early 20s. I loved the computer game, The Sims. Loved that game. And even, I don't know about now because I haven't played it in years and years and years, but back then, your computer needed to be, your desktop computer needed to have certain specs and whatnot. So I wanted to build a computer specifically dedicated to play that game because it required a lot of memory, required a lot of processing. And my dad was a career computer technician and programmer. So he was like, okay, I'll help you build the computer, because we were going to build it from scratch. So we went to the computer store, bought the frame, bought all the parts. We were literally building a computer from scratch. So we bought all the parts and everything. And we started off on a Sunday afternoon. I was motivated. Started off on a Sunday afternoon. And I was motivated by my passion and my enjoyment and pleasure of playing the game of Sims. And all of that, Sims, and all of that is fire energy. So we were putting everything together, building this computer from scratch. And I remember by like Sunday evening, my dad was like, I'm out. I'm out. And I was like, nope, let me take a little break, because I was motivated. I was going to get this computer built no matter what. And I was going to not just have the computer built. It was going to be programmed with the operating system. It was going to be functioning and working, and it was going to be loaded with my game and all of the companion packs so that I could play the way I wanted to. Before I closed my eyes and laid head to pillow that night, I was going to be playing The Sims on my computer that I built from scratch. So he kind of copped out, and I kept on going. And I was just asking, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? And he kind of walked me through it. And when I tell you, I had that computer fully built, functioning, and programs uploaded by the end of the night when I put my head to pillow, because I was motivated by my fire energy passion for playing the game of Sims. And so that's what it looks like when you have a high fire element. You are motivated. You are determined. You are enacting your will, which is what you, at the core of you, what you want to do. You are moving forward in your passion, your creativity, your motivation to get done whatever it is that you want to do. That is what high fire energy looks like. So I'm sure that you've had times in your life, like I have, where you were just completely motivated. You were like, I'm going to get this done regardless. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to do it. And you're following your passion, you're following your creativity, you're excited about, that business idea. You're excited about that new project that you're going to start. You're excited and you're ready to get on it, and you're determined and you're planning, and you're not just in your head about things. Like, you've already worked through the idea. You've already worked through how you feel about the idea, and now you're ready to act on it and get moving, which is your motivation. You're inspired by the things you see around you. You may have seen something on Instagram. Like, you may have seen somebody wearing this, fabulous outfit, and it sparks your creativity and your inspiration. And you're like, man, that just makes me, that's just totally me. I feel so good when I look at this person wearing this outfit, and that's totally my style. And so you get motivated, like, man, I'm about to go on all of these different websites. I'm going to find this jacket. I'm going to find these shoes because I'm recreating this outfit. And you follow that through. So that is how fire works. It's the energy of doing. It's the energy of motion. It's the energy of passion and creativity and fire. You know, we already know how it feels when we're talking about the sensual side of the fire energy, which is the arousal. You know how you feel inside your body when you get aroused and you want to connect with somebody. So that is not just one way. Well, that's just one way that the fire energy works, with our passion, with our physical desires, with our physical arousal. But it also works with what we're passionate about in our hearts, what we're excited about in our hearts, the ideas that we have, the way that we may want to live. You may be excited about going back to school. You get the idea like, man, I should really go back to school. And it makes you feel good inside, and you get motivated and you start working on it and going in and seeing what you need to do. So that's how the fire energy works. There is something, though, that happens when we get excited about the things that we want to do in our fire energy, and then we let something or someone douse that or smother that energy. And we begin to lose the heat and intensity of our fire energy. And that's also something that I've experienced. So I want to read out of my book, I want to read you another little short paragraph about what happens when we give our fire energy to others and what that looks like. Okay. I have the energy of a self-starter innately, and I have always been a creative, motivated, and optimistic person. When I get an idea, I am enthusiastic about. I've also had certain individuals in my life who I cared about and loved who did not support that energy, and in fact used their influence in my life to try to control and dissuade me from doing what I was led to do. The ideas and opportunities I excitedly brought to them were met with skepticism, criticism, fear, distraction, and manipulation. Their suggestions were more about me doing what they thought I should do, or sticking to a lane that better served their agenda than my ambitions. Over time, my fire was dampened by me placing myself second in my own life to the usefulness I served in someone else's. Add on marriage and motherhood, which required sharing my fire with my family unit for our goals and purposes. And I didn't have much heat left for myself. My embers smoldered, and the fire was low and not often stoked. One of the things that I experienced within my life, growing up in my early 20s, early 30s years of living, was the dampening of my fire energy. Initially, from what I can remember, that came about from sharing my passion and sharing my ideas with those that I considered close to me, those that I cared about, those that I loved and I thought, loved me, and they may have loved me in their own way. But when I would come to them with my ideas and, my passion and my excitement about things, often they would meet that with criticism, like, oh no, you shouldn't do that. No, that's not going to work for you. Oh, I don't know about that for you. Oh, I don't know. That sounds dangerous. Oh, I know that sounds problematic. That sounds troublesome. Maybe you should do this instead. So I would be met with a lot of criticism, a lot of distraction of trying to re-navigate my ideas to something else. And it took me a long time to realize that sometimes maybe they were just trying to look out for me from their own projection or their own perspective. But also they were diverting me because what I wanted to do did not match their agenda for where I was useful in their lives. So if I said, For example, I want to go back to school and study psychology and get a psychology degree. I was met, and this is true, I was met with, no, you should do something for the family. You should study business or study accounting so you can be the accountant for the family. And I remember having this conversation, and I was like, but I don't want to do accounting. That's not my passion. If I'm going to put my energy, my fire energy of doing into something and follow my will and follow my passion, because psychology is my passion and social behavior and studying humanity and people is my passion, then that's where I want to put my energy. That's where I want to direct my energy. And that's what I want to focus on. I don't want to focus on accounting because that's not my passion. I don't want to dedicate this amount of energy to something like that. But what it was is that person that, I'm going to be real, that person was cheap and was looking at me as more of a tool than someone, a full human that had my own desires and my own will and my own perspective. And they felt like, no, you need to serve the purpose that I see fit, because this is my agenda and this is what I'm doing. And this is where I want to put you. I want you to wear all of these different hats. I want you to be this. And if you're going to go back to school and I'm going to have any contribution to it, financially or otherwise, then you need to do this, that. And when I was growing up, I was a people pleaser. I felt like I needed to keep the people around me happy so that they would not just stay around me, but that they would love me, and we can go into being a people pleaser and my experience of that, more later. But I would allow people to divert my passion. I would allow people, I would talk to them about my passion for writing, my skill set, the things that I like to do or the things that I'm good at. You meet people, you meet friends, or you meet romantic potentials or partners, and you talk to them about, your talents and what you're good at and what you love to do. And one of mine is writing, love to write. Another one is psychology and, helping people and helping them to further themselves, being a life coach and things like that. And I remember, and it took me a while to really recognize that, because I was used to giving away my focus. I was used to giving away my fire energy to others. I didn't value it for myself. I wasn't confident in using that energy for myself, but I had been conditioned to and learned how to use it for others without receiving very much appreciation or acknowledgement in return, or gratitude in return. So I would tell somebody, okay, well, I like to write. And I remember this happening and that person being like, okay, well, write me this or write me that. I need you to write me a little article that I can post on, about whatever it was. And I remember doing it. But that person, when I did it and I was like, here, that person was never like, oh my gosh, thank you for doing that. This is going to help me a great deal. How can I accommodate you? Because of my connection to that person and how they felt I fit into their agenda, they just took it and was like, okay, good, you did it. I'm glad it didn't take too long, and they didn't give me any consideration, any credit. They weren't appreciative. So I experienced a lot of sharing my fire energy, sharing my passions, sharing my gifts and my talents with others, doing things for others. And then they crap on me about it. Like, how am I going to do something for you one day? And then the next day, you're going to tell me how useless I am. Like, it doesn't make it make sense, and because I was not in a healthy place mentally and not in a healthy place in my elements and how I saw myself, it took me a long time to work through all of that so I could really honor and value who and what I am and what I do and what I'm good at and use it for myself first. So some of the ways that I experienced having low fire energy was not putting myself first in my life, allowing others to utilize me for their agenda, and me deprioritizing myself shifting myself around. So, like, for example, I want to go back to school for psychology, but instead I let someone talk me into going back to school for something else that really benefited them. It didn't benefit me. Instead of receiving encouragement and support for what it was that I wanted to do, and being confident that I could not just do it, but succeed in that. Another thing that I had to work through was not building up myself and being confident in what it was that I wanted to do. So I deprioritized myself and put a lot of my energy into other things without remembering that I need to build up the energy for myself as well. So being a mom and being a wife, giving and giving and giving of myself to my family unit, but not remembering and not practicing that you were Saleema before you were a mother. You were Saleema before you were a wife. You must honor what Saleema wants to do. And you must learn, the journey is learning how to weave all of this together so that you can put yourself first in and prioritize yourself in being healthy in your elements, being healthy in your passions, continuing to be who you were before you stepped into these other roles, but yet it's still satisfying what's needed for the roles based on what you've determined is needed, not based on what someone else has determined, but based on what you've determined is needed and what you have agreed to, how you have agreed to act in that role. It took me a long time to figure that out. It took me a long time to figure that out and work through my air element of what I thought about myself in these roles, work through my water element of how I felt. There's a lot of moms out there, for example, who feel guilty about prioritizing themselves and feel like that's a wrong thing or that's a shameful thing. No, you have to, because everything anchors to you. If you are depleted, then you cannot support what you are keeping alive with your fire energy, because you're keeping your family unit going. You're keeping your marriage going with your fire energy. And if that energy is not coming back with mutuality, if that energy is not in your marriage or your relationship, if that energy is not coming back with mutuality from giving to your family and your family showing appreciation and you getting back whatever it is that you need from that interaction, then you're going to be depleted. And if you're depleted, there is nothing for all the things that are anchored to you in these roles that you play to feed off of, because you have nothing to feed on. You have nothing to give. And let's be honest. The things that you bring into your life feed on you. And so what I want to talk about now is how you build up your fire energy, because you must build up your fire energy so that not only are you feeding off of life, but the things that you are giving your energy to have something to feed on from you, because that's what's happening. Fire depletes because it is being fed on. But see, this is the key. Life is everlasting. And so you can feed off of life eternally. And that's one of the ways that you have to build your fire energy. You have to go out and live. Ooh, you must live. You can only do so much by looking at things. You can get inspiration. Yes. You can even low-key get motivated. But, if you're just if you're just going to work, coming home, scrolling on social media, staying in your house, you're not feeding your fire. You might be sparking it. You might be inspired a little bit. But if you don't take that inspiration through imagination in the air element and bring it all the way down into your fire of doing, because fire, let's be clear, fire is action. Fire is not feeling. Fire, it doesn't have a mind per se. Fire feeds on what has sustenance for it to feed on. So take, for example, a candle. If you have a candle that you've been burning and the wicks are consumed, meaning that, they're black and they're already consumed. Like the fire, the last time you lit the candle, the fire fed off of all the material that was consumable. When you try to go and light that wick, it's not going to light. You're going to be like, I'm putting the fire to it, but it's not lighting. It's not lighting because there's no more material for it to actually consume. So you have to trim your wick. That's one of the points of trimming your wick, so that you can cut off the dead stuff and have something fresh and vibrant that the fire can feed off of. So once it gets a hold of something, the spark, the heat gets a hold of something that it can feed off of, then the flame will come alive and you'll have a nice high burning flame. And I talk about that in my book, and I talk about that in my guidebook. So you must go out and live. You must go out and do the things that you are passionate about. You must go out and build up your fire, your passion for life, not just by the imagination or looking at things, but don't just look at Travel Channel. Like I used to love to sit up and look at the Travel Channel, and my complacency would make me, which is an emotional response, would make me feel satisfied in just watching it on the TV and making lists like, oh, I can't wait, I'm going to do it. And that's fine. That's inspiring. But it wasn't until I stepped out and said, okay, I may not know what I'm doing. I've never traveled before, but I'm confident that I can manage myself in it. And when I stepped out and I started going out and traveling and going out and finding these beautiful places to hike out in nature, that changed the game, because now I wasn't just in my mental space or in my emotional space. I was actually out in 3D, moving and living, and the fire energy of my body, the life force in my body was being sparked and moved to go out and really experience these things. So you have to go out and live. And one of the first places, like I said, life is eternal, and you can feed on life eternally. Life is never consumed. Life is never, the life force energy out in the world, in nature, is eternal. So the first place that I went to feed and feed on was nature. Nature. It's because the beauty of it is inspiring. Oh my gosh, the mountains, the greenery, the forest and the trees, the dirt and mulch, the decay. It's inspiring because you're observing what's already inside of you. We go through life cycles. We go through different aspects of ourselves. So does nature. The beauty of flowers. This is what artistry is about. Artists go out and they observe life. And from the observation of life, it fuels their passion. It fuels their eye. It inspires them to come back and replicate or redefine or reimagine what they've seen in people, places, and things. And this is why I was telling you before in my other videos how the elements all weave in and out of each other. But fire must be fed. It must feed on something. If it doesn't feed on something, it smolders and it gets lower and lower and lower. Just like when you're burnt, if you have a campfire, when those logs are brand new and dried out, the fire is crackling, it's going. But once the fire consumes all the consumable materials in those logs, all you have is embers. And what you have to do, you have to put some new material on it, and you have to build that fire back up so that it can be hot enough to consume the new material. So you have to go out and live. You have to go out and live. You have to go out and see the things, see all of the things. Go out into nature. Go take a walk, take a hike. Take a hike by a babbling creek or river. Listen to the sounds. Go out into the forest. Listen to the beautiful sounds of the birds and the insects chirping. And I love when I go to Houston, we have the Houston Arboretum and nature conservation area. And I just love walking out there, because you'll be walking and you'll be by yourself, but you'll hear the little crackling of the leaves to the side of you. And I'm like, okay, I look and I'm like, well, that's not a person. It's the animals scurrying around. You might see an armadillo, might see a squirrel, but I'm out living life. And that inspires me. I can feed off of the environment around me. I love to go to the mall. You may not have the money to buy the luxury stuff. Okay, but nothing in this day and age is stopping you from going to the luxury mall and just window shopping, looking at, the things that are available. Go into the stores, touch the material. It's not going to, your brain, the way that your brain works, the more stimulation you can give it, the better. So how are you going to manifest this Chanel purse or whatever into your existence if you don't have the clearest image and idea of it? You can look at it. You can look at somebody on social media holding it, styling it, whatever. But until you go and lay your hands on it and touch it and feel it and make it spatially real in your mind, you need that part in order to manifest. I'm gonna make a video about manifestation. That's another topic, but to bring it forth and make it real in your 3D reality. The more stimulation you can give your brain to make that real, the better. Go and lay your hands on these beautiful items that you want. Go test drive your dream car. Go do it. It's not taking anything away from you, and it's not taking anything away from them. Get over your clear out your air element and your water element about going places where you feel you don't belong, or that you feel, you can't afford. There's nothing that you need to afford to go look in the window. There's nothing that you need to afford in order to go take a test drive. There's nothing that you need to afford in order to go to the mall and be in the energy, because everything is energy. So you put yourself around the energy and you feed off of the beauty of these luxury items that you may want. Or if you want to collect, I love art and I want to collect art. Well, I go to art galleries. Now, I may not right now, I'm working towards being able to afford, major art pieces and bring those into my home, into my, they're already in my reality, but into my personal possession. But that's not what's stopping me from going to the art gallery to take a look and to appreciate and to feed my elements based on what's already there. It's already there. It's already been created. So I can go and enjoy it. So you have to go out and live in order to build up your fire element. You also have to be confident in yourself. Self-confidence, self-esteem. There are elemental aspects to all of that. And I'm going to talk about those things at another time. But when you get to the fire element of confidence, confidence is the driving force to what you're doing. You may not know what you're doing, but when you have a self-determination and you believe in yourself, that you're going to dedicate to yourself, you're going to commit to yourself, and you're going to make this happen. Meaning you're going to follow it through to completion, or until you get to a point where you say, okay, I need to make another determination on what to do. I need to decide what my will is at this point on which way I need to go. But I'm making that determination. Confidence is about your belief in yourself. Confidence is not just the mentality, but the belief that drives you to move and focus your life force, your energy, your focus, your attention into that thing and be committed to it and build up the loyalty within yourself to be committed to it. And confidence is a strange thing, because you have to do in order to build your confidence. There's no building confidence and you didn't do it. No, confidence is built by doing. Like, I didn't know how to ride a bike, but I knew I could do it. So I asked my friend, teach me how to ride a bike. And I committed to it until I learned how to ride. And confidence is built by doing, by every step that you take. You must do. Again, fire is a movement element. The flame dances. The flame dances. Fire is your mobility. It's you waking up in the morning. Fire is you getting up and going and living within your day. So you have to build your confidence by doing. You may never have hiked before, but you know, okay, I'm going online to look for the boots. I'm reading the reviews. That's what I did when I was like, dang, I want to hike. And I realized that if I want to hike properly, I'm probably not going to be able to hike in these little Nike trainers that I go and do and do my cardio in, because I need support. I need structure. I need the materials that hiking boots are built in for these rugged terrains. So I went and did my research, found the boots that I wanted. I went and looked for them. But I followed that path until I had the boots. Then I put them boots on and I went out and I hiked. So it's all about doing, and confidence is built by doing. So, those are just some quick tips. And I talk about other things in my book about how you recognize where you are in your fire. And then how you make peace with that, accept it, what it is, acknowledge it. And then you go into how to build up your fire to where you want to be. So I want to share with you before we go, and this is also in my book right here. This is my fire wisdom, and it's just a small, just a short affirmation. And this is my personal affirmation, but you can tweak it however you want. Here's the description of it. We heal our fire element by investing energy into what brings us personal fulfillment. We honor the life force of fire within us by living a full and satisfying life of our own creation. So this is my fire element wisdom that I want to share with you. I claim my will, which is my fire element. I make strategic decisions that drive me towards my success, and I implement them expeditiously. I don't wait. When I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. I thought about it. I know how I feel about it. Now I'm getting ready to do it. I may not know where I'm going. I don't know how. I'm not a control freak. I'm putting away control. I don't know how this may turn out, but I'm confident that if I need to pivot mid-cause, I can do that. I honor my passions and I do what I want to do with complete confidence in my ability to succeed. So I want to leave you with that. Fire is life, and you must go out and build up your fire energy by living. Now, I know how it feels when you feel like I don't have the energy. I've got all this stuff that I want to do. I know how that feels. You have to take the first step. You have to prioritize yourself. You have to remember the you before you got in those situations. And it's okay. We make various decisions. We go various ways. And sometimes we do detour down a road where we're giving our life force and our life energy to things that are just not serving us anymore. We can always pivot and course correct and come back to the path of self. That doesn't mean we have to cut off or leave or downgrade anybody that we love, but we must take consideration. Now, how much of myself am I giving to this situation? How much of myself am I giving to this person? How much of myself am I giving over to this role? Because the role is not you. It is just a part that you're playing. It's something that you have stepped into with duty and accountability to experience. And you can adjust that role, or you can leave that role. You can alter that role and adjust it, or you can leave it and say, I don't want to do this anymore, or I want to do it differently. But it's not the core of you. You have to go back into the core of you where your life force sits and say, okay, how much am I committing to this? Is it serving me? Is it feeding my passion to be a this? Is it feeding my inspiration to be a that? Is it motivating me? Am I still gaining pleasure from it? And if not, what can I do to adjust, or how can I exit stage left and do something else? Because I have the right to do that. You have the right to exist in the vibrancy of the life that you want. So take a look at what you're doing, where you're putting your energy, evaluate it, and then decide if it needs to be adjusted, it needs to be ended, it needs to be recentered and refocused. But you got to come back to yourself, into what you're passionate about, what you love, what strokes your creative fire. and feed that. Go out and live, be confident in yourself, and do what the hell you want to do. Because that's life, that's living, doing what the hell you want to do. If you're not doing what you want to do, you're doing what somebody else wants you to do, which is feeding someone else's agenda. And that's where you're going to get all that tiredness and fatigue and lacklusterness and low effort and just feeling like you don't have anything left for yourself. Once you get there, that's not the end. You can build that back up, but you got to take the steps you got to do for yourself. Okay? All right, so that is our that's our conversation about the fire element. I want you to go and look, video's over. Go out and live. Do something for yourself right now. We don't wait. Fire moves quickly. So we done. So decide right now, you know what, this is what I want to do, and go do it. And then receive the satisfaction of that. So with that, I wish you a good day. And I will see you in the next video.